Hi, my name is Dr. Blake Jones, and I own the Compass Center in Wilmore, Kentucky. Thank you so much for taking just a moment and listening to my presentation about our first responder wellness program. I'm very passionate about protecting first responders. I'm so appreciative of the work that they do. And my company is trying very hard to bring some wellness programming to first responders in Kentucky. And I wanted to tell you just a little bit about that. First, a little bit about me. This is my family, my wife, and my children. I recently retired as a professor at UK in social work. I teach now at Asbury University a bit and also own my counseling practice here in Wilmore. I'm a musician and do that for fun and to sort of stay sane. As I mentioned, I've worked with first responders for about the past 20 years. These are just some pictures working with the Lexington Police Department, the Lexington Fire Department, Franklin County Sheriff's Office, and some others, KSP. And I just love it. I'm so passionate about it and have done about 30 ride-alongs now to try to educate myself about the culture of first responder agencies and just see firsthand how important it is that we provide mental health wellness to our heroes. My wife and I run a first responders healthy marriages group at Southland Church on Tuesday evenings, and this is a group picture of us. We love helping couples, and it's very important to us. I was honored to win this award in 2020 from the Lexington Police Department. I'm not big on awards, but it was nice that they recognized the service that our group has done for first responders. Again, this is my company, the Compass Center in Wilmore, and I'll tell you more about that later. So, why do we need mental health programs for first responders? Well, the the issues are great in the first responder community, and these graphics show you that suicide is the number one threat to police officers. Um, 64% of police suicides were a surprise to the agency. Of course, this is a tragic outcome when an officer or first responder of any type takes his or her life. And so we want to work really hard to prevent that. PTSD and drug abuse among EMTs is about 1 in 5. And we see that firefighters also really struggle with trauma exposure, and they are about 3 times more likely to die by suicide than in the line of duty. You can see these numbers here, the first responder deaths. The line of duty deaths in 2017 were 93. For firefighters, law enforcement was 129. 140 suicides of police officers and 103 by EMTs. So this is an issue that we have to look at, we have to respond to, and that's why I'm talking to you today. You can see the police officer alcoholism rate. First year, after 2 years on the force, is about 27%. After 4 years on the force, is about 36%. So, again, alcohol is a way that lots of police officers deal with stress. They deal with lack of sleep. They deal with trauma by drinking. In my practice, I've seen lots and lots of officers and other first responders who really struggle with substance abuse. And so we really want to try to help them with that. When we reflect on what causes police officers to kill themselves about twice as much as the regular population, we look at this. We look at things like loss. We look at access to weapons, lack of fear regarding death, substance abuse, as I mentioned, and then trauma and cumulative stress over a period of their lifetime. A friend of mine who's a cop says, it's like 1,000 bee stings. Every once in a while, you will have that, or maybe a lot. You'll have that trauma, that car crash, or that suicide, or officer involved shooting. But then it's a lot of little things that just build up and build up. And so, again, it's critical that we have wellness visits in place so that officers can talk about that. They can relieve themselves of some of that burden that they carry around. It's kind of like filling a cup. They need to dump that out every once in a while. And that's why we want to do these wellness programs. It's also best practice. I know that if you're a chief or someone in authority at an agency who's watching this, that you understand that your national groups are calling for wellness visits. All of these groups have put this into policy. It's best practice. And I know that you want to be the best and that you want to protect your officers and employees. And so, again, it's national best practice. Here are some other benefits for mental health wellness checks. Um, Increased retention. I know that it's difficult to keep good people, to hire them. Better relationships. I work with lots of first responder couples, and I always think, as they leave my office, if we can just get them, if we can get their marriage better, that officer is going to be safer out on the street because he or she is not wondering about their marriage. They're not, worried about it. And so that's a safer community. Decreased absenteeism, as I'll mention here in a moment. It's no secret that there's lots of mental health, there's stigma around seeing a mental health professional. So my goal in these wellness visits is that everybody does them, from the top all the way down to the newest hire. It's just like going and getting a physical every year. You go in and talk with someone like me about your mental health and your sleep and your relationships. We also have seen increased resiliency with officers that participate in this program. One of the first programs we did was with Sheriff Quire in Franklin County, who just this year won Sheriff of the Year award. And I'm so proud of Sheriff Quire for bringing this program to the agency there. And he was the first person that came in to see me. He really set the tone for the other officers. He says, we're going to do this. This is important. And so he said some nice words, of course, here about me, which I won't belabor, but I've spent a lot of time in his agency in the Franklin County Sheriff's Department, and I'm so proud of the culture that he and his command staff have set for his officers. Another officer that I worked with is Steve Hammond, who is in recovery from alcohol. And I'm so proud of Steve. He's been in recovery since December 31st of 2019. And he really is becoming a model for other police officers at the Lexington Police Department about sobriety, recovery, that it's okay to ask for help. And I'm so proud of him. So that's all well and good. What is the cost of our wellness program? It's about $150 to $250 per officer or employee per year. We do have a tier system. So in tier one, we can do just quarterly trainings for you if you want us to come in and do some trainings around healthy marriages or transitioning from the street to home. We can do that. Tier two, we offer the quarterly trainings, and we also add an annual wellness visit for all of your employees. And then the final tier is we have wellness visits, trainings, and then we build in some programs for spouses and families. And we also can do critical incident debriefings as well. So we want to try to be flexible. This is my colleague, Casey Miller, who's a licensed clinical social worker like me. She has lots of experience in working with trauma and stress management. We both do. And so this is kind of the tier approach if you're looking at your budget. There was a 2019 study by RAND that looked at wellness programs for first responders, and it indicated that there's a potential return on investment of $2 to $6 for every dollar that's spent. So this is certainly important for your agency, important money that can be spent in really preventing some bad things from happening. What do we talk about in the annual wellness checks? Well, first of all, they are confidential, and we talk about things like sleep, nutrition, relationships. We cover mental health. It's very conversational. When I do them, I just talk with the officer about, how are you doing? Have you, how are you sleeping? How is your work-life balance? Are you having any trauma or traumatic thoughts going on? How are you sleeping? So these are the general areas that we cover. Some of the trainings that we offer as well are transitioning from the street to home, as I mentioned, healthy relationships, sleep. And then we really want to work with command staff about how you can support your officers in having positive health and mental health overall. I'll leave you with this quote: mental health problems don't define who you are. There's something you experience. You walk in the rain, you feel the rain, but you're not the rain. When I think about over the last 20 years and the first responders that I have dealt with, they are courageous. They are heroes in my mind, but they also really struggle with that idea that it's okay to respond in a human way to some of the inhuman things that they see out on the road. So I tell them, you're not a robot. Those feelings, those experiences that you have, they have to go somewhere. So I hope that you will consider having us send a proposal to you or come talk with you more about our wellness program. We would love to help you and your officers. This is the way that you can reach me, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you.